Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the remaining portion of Buddhism, Jainism and Buddhism. And in this portion we will discuss the causes behind the uprise of Jainism and Buddhism. And next we will go through the doctrines if the time permits. First of all, regarding the causes behind the, as I told, uprise of Jainism and Buddhism. The first causes is that should be discussed under these headlines. Under these headlines, you have the numbers of causes, but you should collect them under these three headlines. The first of all, that is socioeconomic causes. Socioeconomic causes. So, as you know that the Vedic Civilization started approximately in 1500 BC and ended up to 500 BC. So the second part of the Vedic Civilization had been termed as the later Vedic period. And in this later Vedic period, as you know that the Brahmanical religious sect had come out to the top, and the Brahmanas had come out at the highest strata of the social system, different castes of the, among the different castes of the society, and they had introduced a very stern casteism in the society and pulled them up at the top of the social strata. Okay, come to the point. Now, since the later Vedic period, since the days of starting days of the later Vedic period, as the time passed by, the Brahmanism had got the immense power so far, and incorporated numbers of rituals, household rites, ceremonies, and most importantly, yagnas. They had to put these things in the religious activity in order to strengthen their position, in order to signify their position in the society. For doing so, especially for doing the yagnas, they had gone through the massive sacrifice of the animals. Now, what are those animals? The animals especially were the domestic animals. Domestic animals, mainly the cow. And never forget that the Vedic economy was centered to the cow. The cow was the base, the foundation of the Vedic economy. Vaishyas and Shudras, the agrarian class, agricultural class, used to use their cows for the production, number one. And number two, the trading was done through the surplus production in exchange through the barter system, and their cow was a very much important item regarding the trading relation. Cow was very much item of obedience regarding the trading relations. Not only that, the number of cows under one's possession determined that how much rich that person is. So the cow society, the social economy was based on cows, availability of the cows, and based on the cows in the stock, the other domestic animals. But in the yagnas, the brahmanas had gone through massive sacrifices and they had slaughtered the cows in order to sacrifice in the pure of the yagnas. So this attitude had affected the economy in those days. In the last part of the later Vedic economy, this attitude had affected the economy, the Vedic economy. Along with that, when the Vedic economy was being affected, then the economical class, that means the trading class, that means the producers, that means Vaishyas and Shudras, they had got hardship for going on their for running on their economical life. So they got fumed against such Brahmanical practice. Next one, the Brahmanas had introduced, next point is that under socio-economy, the Brahmanas had introduced numbers of household rites, numbers of rituals, and they had compelled the common people to do these things in order to acquire the money, in order to acquire the wealth. In those days, the money, so far, the currency was not there. So instead of money, it was like different materials. So this way, they had been acquiring, they had been exploiting the common people economically. They had forced them to do so. So the people, the common people, had been searching for inexpensive mode of religious practice. Next point is that with due course of time, around the later part of the later Vedic period, that means around 8th century BC, 7th century BC, or 6th century BC, or 500th century, 5th century BC, around this time, as the Brahmanism had got stuck in the neck of the society and started their tortures in the name of religion and in the name of religion, different religious practice. They had become engaged in such corrupt practices. Whatever corrupt practices, as I have told you, for the rituals, for the ceremonies, for the household rites, they had been claiming the money, they had been claiming the remuneration from the common people, which was very much expensive. So they had got the taste, they had got the taste of the money, they had got the taste of the property, they had got the taste of the luxurious life. This particular taste made them involved, made them got succumbed into the corrupt practice. So this was the socio-economic causes. The people wanted to get rid of it, and they had been finding out, they had been searching for such a religion which will not exploit them economically. So that was the socio-economic causes. Next, that is socio-political causes. Never forget the time frame. So what was the time? That is around 5th or 6th century BC. So So what happened in those days in India, especially in northern India, especially in northwestern and northern portion of Indian subcontinent? We have seen that from the political units, the emergence of the political units, the emergence of evolution in the political sphere, and how did it happen? That is, as we know that after the advent of the Aryans, they were divided in different clans. Next, these clans had turned into the Janapadas, and this time around 6th century BC, throughout the northwestern and northern portion of Indian subcontinent, we had 16 Mahajanapadas. So Janapadas had turned into the Mahajanapadas. That was important. So what is the importance of Mahajanapadas? When the Mahajanapadas had been emerging out, the Mahajanapadas had been emerging out in the later part of the later Vedic society. What happened in the political sphere in the later Vedic society? The Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata, Gana, such people's assemblies had been wiped out. Such people's assemblies of Rigvedic period had been wiped out. So the king had been gathering the storm, the king had been gathering the power. And next stage, since 3rd century, 2nd century BC, we will see that centering the Magadha or the Patliputra, a new political unit which would be called the statecracy had been emerged under the Mauryans. So it is the evidence that in the political sphere, the evolution had been happening on very fast, and the kings had been acquiring the power very fast. Now, according to the social strata, the kings coming from the Kshatriyas, and they were treated as the second-class citizen in the society, because the social strata was introduced by the Brahmanas, and Brahmanas made them at the top hierarchy in the strata. So, with this emerging power, the Kshatriyas were not ready to accept such status in the society. They wanted to prove themselves that no, we are the top. So the Kshatriyas had gone against the Brahmanical sect, Brahmanism, and never forget that Mahavir Jain and Buddha himself, they were the Kshatriya princes. They were the sons of their respective king fathers. Some scholars used to define this Jainism and Buddhism as the Kshatriya movement against the Brahmanism. So, this socio-political cause had become very important for founding the for making the foundation stone of the different religious sect against of the Brahmanism. Beside that, when the Buddhism and Jainism arrived, the most of the kings of Mahajanapadas, most of the premiers of the Mahajanapadas had accepted, had embraced, had patronized, had given the support to these two religious sects, because they why they because they had these two religious sects had ruled out the casteism, ruled out the violence in the name of religious practice, and emphasized upon the equality among the people. Most importantly, these two religions had pacified the society, as I've told you, society was on the verge of destruction due to the intercaste tussle, intercaste conflicts. The Kshatriyas had been going against Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Sudras had been going against Brahmanas, and all these lower castes people after the Brahmanas were not ready to continuing on the social strata, the caste system defined by the Brahmanas, designed by the Brahmanas. So the society was under threat. The existence of the Vedic society was under threat. So that was the second cause, and the last one, socio-religious cause. In this socio-religious cause, as I've told you, that when the Buddhism and Jainism, these two religious sects, come upon the stage and preached about the non-violence, ruled out the religious ritualities, rites, ceremonies, yajnas, such things. When they had ruled out the caste system into the society, dogmatic, hard, severe casteism. So when these things happened, and above all, when these two religions had promulgated the equality beside non-violence, and given very simple mode of simple code of conduct overall, simple code of conduct for living an austere life. At that time, above all, when these two religions had spoken, had preached, and had spoken in the common man's language, that is Prakrit and Pali, last day we have discussed. And Brahmanism used to speak in Sanskrit. Sanskrit was not the common man's language. So the people were not interested to the religious activities. They had been abiding by the different religious practices, different religious rituals, rites, yajnas, etc. under threat, become scared. They had been abiding by these things because these things were imposed upon them. But this time, when these two towering religions had been spoken to their mind, had been spoken in their languages, they had understood the religiosity of these two religious sects and embraced Buddhism and Jainism against Brahmanism. So these were overall three basic causes, three fundamental causes behind the uprise of what's that? Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, next. We will go through the next segment, that is doctrine. Doctrine of Jainism. Regarding doctrine of Jainism, what does it mean? It means that if you acquire Jainism, if you accept Jainism, if you have become the follower, disciple, a follower of Jainism, then what you have to do to be a pious Jain, and what you have to do to to live your life. Above all, what you need to do to achieve moksha or salvation. What's that? We will go through. The first one, it is said that three ratnas in Jainism, the three activities were termed as the three ratnas. True Jain must have to follow these three ratnas, three jewels. Now, what are they? Those were right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. These three ratnas one must have to follow. Next one, it is karma. Karma, this particular philosophy was derived, this karma philosophy was derived from Upanishad, Vedanta, the Vedic literature, as you know this, the last Vedic literature, what is called Upanishad or Vedanta. The Vedic philosophy had been compiled upon Vedanta, the most intricate and most finest, fine part of the total Vedic literature. Anyway, come to the point. What Mahavir had been saying regarding karma, that is, he is saying that what will you do? What will you do? It will be determined as your karma, and the fate of you will be determined upon that. That means, jaise karni aise varni. In Bengali, it is called Jemon Kormo Temni Phal, Temon Phal. Anyway, come to the point. So, what's that? He is saying that one should be responsible for one's own karma or action. Good deeds alone liberate a man from the cycle of life and birth. Good deeds. So when you are living on, do good deeds. Now, what are the good deeds according to Jainism? We will go through. But you have to do good deeds to get rid of the cycle of birth and death. If you can achieve this, if you can do this, then you will achieve moksha or salvation. That means you don't need to come back to the sorrowful life. That is important. Next one, equality. Mahavir laid stress on the equality between men and men, and even between men and women. Very interesting. Next, he preached universal brotherhood. Universal brotherhood, he considered all men equal, irrespective of their caste and creed. All living beings, from the tiny insect to the highest form of life, should be shown compassion. So what he had told? He had told the first of all, that is equality. Equality between men and men, equality between men and women. He told universal brotherhood. He told, along with that, he told that all men are equal, all people, irrespective of caste, creed, sex, religion, everybody, all men are equal to each other. And irrespective of, just now I told, and he said, above all, he said that all living things, all living creatures on planet Earth, from the tiny insect to the highest form of life, should be shown compassion. Compassion, that is important. Next one, he is talking about the soul. And regarding soul, he is saying the same Vedanta philosophy. He is saying that soul is eternal. Soul means Atma or Atma is eternal. It is not destroyed. It is not the subject to be destroyed, and it is not the subject to be reformed. It is immortal. Only our physical appearance takes birth and dies. Takes birth and dies. Genesis happens only in our physical appearance. So, next he is saying salvation. Like the Hindus, that means Vedanta philosophy, we have discussed this. He had been saying about the, moksha. So, one can achieve moksha, can achieve salvation. What does it mean? It means that if someone can achieve salvation or moksha, then that person not need to come back to the sorrowful life on planet Earth. That person can get rid of the cycle from the cycle of birth and death. That is the salvation or moksha. Now, how a person can achieve this? Through the abiding by the three ratnas and through the doing the good deeds. That is important. Next, we will discuss. Jainism also believed in penance. Severe penance they used to believe. And in this regard, they even accept the dying in fasting. No problem in this. Because they wanted to, Jainism wants to release the soul. They had been talking about the soul. They had not been talking about the physical appearance. So, if anyone can continue his living by abiding by, three ratnas, the principle of three ratnas, by doing good deeds, and can live the austere life through the hard penance, severe penance, then this person can achieve salvation, moksha. That is the overall teachings, doctrine of Jainism. Next one we will discuss the teachings of Buddha. the teachings of Buddha or the doctrine of Buddhism. Doctrine or teachings of Buddhism. It is saying that Buddha as we know that the secret or as we know that the sacred book of Buddhism was Tripitaka. And the second Pitaka, that means Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka contained the teachings of Buddha. Now, teachings of Buddha had been preached through the short stories. He used to tell the stories, different stories to his direct disciples. And in every story, he used to unfold a particular teaching. So that was his style of preaching. His message to the people was that the world, our life, is full of suffering, and a man could attain a salvation by following his teachings. A man could attain the salvation. Salvation here in Jainism, salvation means moksha. And in Buddhism, salvation means nirvana. So a man can achieve nirvana by following his teachings contained in the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. Now the first one is, if a person wants to achieve salvation, if a person wants to achieve nirvana, then he has to abide by the teachings of Buddha. Okay. But first of all, he needed to search for the causes of the suffering, the causes of the suffering, and first of all he needs to understand his life, his suffering, that why these things have been happening, why I am coming back again and again. So these things had been told, these causes behind had been told in Four Noble Truths or Arja Satya. Come to the point. What does that mean? He said that the world is full of suffering. The world is full of suffering, number one. Number two, the suffering has a cause. The world is full of suffering, and suffering has a cause. Number two. Number three, desire. Desire is the main cause. Desire is the lone cause of suffering. Desire is the cause of suffering. Number three. And number four, if desire be stopped, then the suffering can also be stopped. If there is no desire, then there will not be suffering. I have a desire to have a pack of chocolate. Now, if I can win over this particular desire, when I am not getting that pack of chocolate, I am suffering. Now, if I can win over such desire to have the pack of chocolate, then there will not be any suffering. Simple. Simple. That is a very simple way to follow Buddha's doctrine, Buddha's preaching, Buddha's teaching. Next one. Eightfold Path. The Sanskrit name of Eightfold Path is Ashtangik Marg. Ashtangik Marg. He pronounced Eightfold Path in a way which can be practiced by the common people, which can be practiced by the common people easily. He wanted a very honest and simple life from his disciples, from his followers, from the common people. And in this regard, he had cancelled, he had refused to live a life under very hard penance like Jainism, because he did know that the common people could not do it. It couldn't be possible for a common people to go through such severe penance in life, even fasting to death. It could not be possible. But at the same time, he had refused, disowned the life of luxury, the luxurious life which was driven by the desire. So in the middle, he had proclaimed his Ashtangik Marg, or the Eightfold Path, and that's why it is called Majjhim Path, or the middle path. Majjhim Path, or the middle path. So what are they? Right action. The first of all, right action. Next, right thought. Right action means to remain away from theft. So do good deed. Right action means do good deed. What does it mean doing good deed? It means do not remain away from theft, remain away from desire, remain away from the luxurious life, violence, most importantly violence. So these things, and keep your life simple. These things is right action. Next one, right thought, to remain away from empty rituals and worldly evils. Don't need to practice any empty rituals, empty ceremonies, yagnas, these things. Get away from this. Refuse this. Right belief. Right belief means give up desire. Give up desire. Your friend has a new model of advanced model of mobile phone, and you do not have. So you have been thinking that I need this. So a desire is born in your mind, and when you are not getting it, you are suffering. So don't need to dream about like this. Don't desire. So you will not be suffered. So that was his message. Next one, right living, not to have dishonest dealing with others. Right living. So how a person can continue living? What will be the mode of his living? That is simple, honest life. Don't deal corrupt. dealing. Don't do corrupt dealing with the others. Don't get involved into corrupt practice, malpractice. Don't seduce anybody. Don't provoke anybody. Don't deceive anybody. Don't greed. Don't be greedy. So these things were his teachings. Right speech. Always speak truth. Never be lie. Never be a liar. Never tell a lie. Always speak truth. Next one, right effort. That is, work for deliverance from sins for the welfare of others. Right recollection. Think always about pious thing. Right meditation. Concentrate yourself inside your mind. Concentrate. Attitude. And next one, that is attitude towards God. Buddha remained silent about the existence of God. But instead, what he had told? He told that all the living, non-living creatures, all the living, non-living creatures had been interrelated and controlled by the universal laws, which he called dharma. Next, code of conduct. To his followers, he designed some code of conduct. Those are not to tell a lie, not to own property, not to consume alcoholic drinks, not to commit violence, not to indulge in corrupt practice. All these code of conducts dictates a simple, honest life. That is the code of conduct of life. Next is told regarding karma, the same thing, nirvana, what Jainas had told, what was told in Vedanta, same thing. Do these good deeds, go through the noble truths, abide by the Ashtangic marg, live a very honest and simple life, don't desire, so you can get rid of the birth of cycle in order to achieve nirvana. Buddha had stressed on the moral practices, moral thought, moral life. Nirvana, regarding nirvana, I told you that what is nirvana. Next he preached about the universal brotherhood, that means the equality. He was also preached like Mahavir about the equality between men and women and between all people in this planet Earth. So, which is called universal brotherhood. He refused. He completely refused the existence of any means of rituals, ceremonies, yagnas, and he told sacrifices, and he told that through these ceremonial activities, one cannot reach to God. To reach God, these things are very much irrelevant, very much wasteful. Next he told the ahimsa. Buddha preached about non-violence or ahimsa, and he completely stopped any means of violence, any means of sacrifice in the yagnas. So that was Buddha's preaching, that was Buddha's teaching, or the doctrines. So today we had discussed the causes of the uprising of Jainism and Buddhism, and the doctrines of Buddhism, Jainism and Buddhism. So we have completed the syllabus of this chapter. Up to this today. Thank you.